Gwen Keyes, co-conspirator 3, has now pleaded guilty in Georgia. Is it likely that District Attorney Willis has had some communication with Jack Smith about this guilty plea?
I would guess possibly, or at least somebody in her office. I think the real question is whether Ms. Powell's attorney had conversations with Jack Smith. Certainly, I would assume that any defense attorney would look at this as a global issue rather than just pleading different parts. And I can't believe that he would have his client go under oath admitting guilt in a state case when there's still a risk of an indictment in the federal case. So I'm assuming there had to be coordination, at least on the defense side.
So, Andrew, so the backstage scenario there is, Fani Willis makes an offer. There's an offer on a guilty plea, and the criminal defense lawyer calls up Jack Smith and says, hey, I've got an offer down here. Can you give me something up there that will cover everything?
So I completely agree with Gwen that the defense will have tried to do that, because just imagine the scenario where Sidney Powell testifies in state court, is required to testify truthfully. If she doesn't, she risks going to jail in state court. But everything she says in state court can be used against her in federal court. Those are still admissions. So you would definitely want to try to do this globally. But one of the things that we know from the hearing today is that there is no agreement with the federal government, because that was something that was asked, and it's a standard thing that's asked by the judge, which is, are there any and all agreements? Have they been put forth today? Is there anything outside of the plea agreement that has caused you to plead guilty? And she said, no, everything is in writing and here. So that suggests to me there is no certainly hard and fast agreement with Jack Smith. Because I think that normally you would see a federal agreement, some kind of plea agreement, or even just an agreement that says there is an agreement not to charge her if she is truthful, and that we haven't seen that. And I think it would have been alluded to today. So I think that puts Sidney Powell in this very precarious position of potentially having to testify, but knowing her testimony could be used by Jack Smith going forward.
So, Gwen, in the Georgia case, in the Georgia courtroom, will Sidney Powell have potential Fifth Amendment protection against a question that is about a possible violation of federal law?
Well, as Andrew said, she can't avoid the question. She is now under a binding plea agreement to give truthful testimony. And let's remember, the DA's office already has a taped statement from her that she proffered prior to this deal going forward. So if she changes her testimony from that, then the DA would be able to impeach her with her prior video testimony. So to Andrew's point, this is a very thin line, and it'll be interesting to see how things proceed at the federal level, which is, again, why I can't imagine that was not considered as part of this. Even if the final decision was left open, I'm assuming there had to be at least some sort of communication, perhaps one that said, if you cooperate at the state level, then we might consider it favorably at the federal case. But I just can't imagine that side has been left open.
So, Andrew, it's possible we have a criminal defendant here who has pleaded guilty, who's going to be testifying in possibly multiple versions of the same trial in Georgia, and every time just kind of crossing her fingers, hoping she doesn't cross a line with Jack Smith in the testimony.
You know, there's a model for this in some ways with Alan Weisselberg, the chief financial officer, who struck a deal where he agreed to do 5 months in jail and to testify truthfully going forward. And the court admonished him that if he did not testify truthfully, that the deal could disappear. And he is facing sort of additional exposure because he obviously didn't plead to everything that he's ever done, or at least that seems to be the case, as the New York Attorney General's case seems to be indicating. So this is just an unusual situation that you don't see, as Gwen noted, what you would expect to see, which is a global deal with the state and the feds. And it really could be that she is facing additional federal peril. And that, as you noted, she is co-conspirator 3, and there could be charges against her and the other 5 co-conspirators who are identified but not yet named in the federal case.